All right, all the Facebook folks, let's get them in here. Got the spinning wheels going. My CPU is only at about 20%. That's good news. So there we go. Check mark, check mark. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome in. It is Thursday morning, and it's time for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are you doing today? Good morning to you. Is it as hot in Atlanta as right now the pretty much the entire Midwest heartland is?
It is, but it's about normal here.
Okay.
So, low 90s and humid in August. Yeah, okay, that's kind of what we expect. So it's not abnormally hot. I've actually gotten out about 12:30, 1 o'clock Monday and Wednesday and ridden my bike, and
Nice.
the heat wasn't the factor that made me struggle. It was my tired old legs that made it hard, not the heat. So it's like when I feel like the heat is holding me back, then I'll do something about it. But hadn't been that bad here. I mean, it's hot. I mean,
Yeah.
but it's deep south in the summertime. It's supposed to be hot.
Yeah. Well, it's nice and cool, starting to get cool here, but unfortunately, looks like smoke's going to start coming back in from BC. So we need some snow to start falling here pretty soon. I know it's August, but that'll be right around the corner here up in the Pacific Northwest and further north. So talk about snow falling. Maybe the Broncos had some snow falling on them yesterday in the joint practice. Sounds like they did not do so well versus the Rams in that first one, but they got a chance for some redemption today. So we'll follow that. But before we get too far there, let's say hello to some folks in the chat. We got Dr. Van Nostrand coming in here.
Good to see
Dr.
you
Van,
again. It's been
yeah,
a
with
while.
it has a new profile picture though, the same logo, but I do not remember it looking like the gold shine one. So welcome in, welcome back, Dr. Van Nostrand. Hope you're doing well. He says Sco Broncos. Donald Willison Jr. says, so now what about the guy from San Francisco? Can't remember how to spell his name. Lely. I think he's talking about the guy the Broncos just signed from the XFL. He is going to be in there for practice, but the fact that they brought him in so late, it's probably just getting a look at him maybe for practice squad or a futures contract. I don't think he factors in the 53.
No, and we said before, I expect to hear 300-pound bodies being signed on the defensive line. There's one. I expect to hear at least one more. And looking at his resume, he hasn't played a game in the NFL. I think he is we want to have our 90 so we can get all our reps in type of camp body.
Yep.
Good for him. Go out there and take advantage of the opportunity. He'll probably make more money in a week of camp or 2 weeks of camp than he does at the XFL, just based on every player makes the same money in camp. Veterans, rookies, undrafted free agents, they all get paid the same. They get paid their salary based on game weeks. So they get like 18 paychecks now, I guess, a year. So they all make the same in the summertime at camp. Good for him. But no, I don't expect him to be on the 53, or really, I don't expect him to even be on the practice squad. Possibly, but I think he's a camp guy to make sure everybody can get their reps in.
Yep. Especially this late in the process. We got Andrew Morrow coming in and said, good morning, Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you. We also got Kevin Gray saying, morning, Nick and Scott. Big mile high salute to Broncos country. Good to see you, Kevin. Jeremy Sean says, morning, boys. Does losing yesterday's joint practice worry you? We'll get into that here in a second. Jeremy, want to say hello to some more people first. Dave Glassman's in the house. Good to see you, Dave. Bama X, good morning, Broncos country. Our guy Cristiano coming in saying, good morning, Nick, Scott, and Broncos country. We got Michael Shields from Broncos country. What's up? Doing pretty well. Good to see you. David Bishop, good morning, everyone. Dom Hermio, good morning, Nick and Scott. David Youngkins in the house. Good morning, Broncos country. Michael Ronquillo ripping off that super chat band-aid here saying, good morning, Nick and Scott and Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Thank you so much for the support, Michael. We really do appreciate that. Albert Knoppers. I love Albert Knoppers, just the simplicity of his profile picture here with the Cone Mountains there with a Broncos fan up top. Says, good morning, gentlemen. Good to see you. Scorpio says, yes, we want the frustrating mistakes to come out in practice and scrimmages as it helps us prepare for the regular season. Yeah, frustrating is a word I would definitely use because Sean Payton seemed pretty damn frustrated with the offense overall yesterday. So we'll see how today goes. Buenos Dias from US Dave. Robbie Red's in the house. Falling Sloth. Good morning, y'all. Storming here in Cincinnati. Trying to start today positive. Just submitted a cover letter for promotion. I have a good chance of getting it, and I'm happy to catch this show. Well, congrats to you, man. We love it when people in this community are succeeding out there in the world, and sounds like you are on the pathway towards more success. So congrats to you, Fallen Sloth. That we're all sending good vibes to you for that good chance of the promotion. Greg Smith, good to see. Austin H is in the house. I think we're pretty well caught up. Leroy Williams, always good to see you. Robbie Red saying, have we seen anything from Riley Moss yet? 199. Thank you so much, Robbie. We have not seen much from Riley Moss yet. He was there at rookie minicamp, but he suffered in the words of Sean Payton, a hernia-like injury. So he had a procedure. He's been out. I wouldn't be shocked at all if he ends up on. Because he started, I think, camp, you can't put him on the short-term IR or anything like that until he clears the 53. So they'll probably have him on the 53, put him on that short-term IR designation, free up a spot, and bring in somebody else. That would be my assumption.
You ever pulled a core muscle before?
No.
It's awful.
Sounds
because I think they were talking about abductor possibly with him or somewhere in that. I wrecked a bicycle one time in a ditch that I thought would have killed me, Gen X 80s kid. And I'm sitting in this ditch with like broken glass and a board with nails in it and a big rock by my head going, why does this not hurt? I don't hurt at all. And I stood up and went, and I'd pulled my stomach, all my abductors and my stomach muscle. And I stood up and went, oh, I felt like I'd been shot.
Oh man.
You can't do anything if he's battling that. So it takes time, and those muscle strains, we talk about them all the time. Sometimes it's nice to just have a nice clean break. I know 4 to 6 weeks, I'm good to go. It's going to heal. And the muscles can just be, I call them like voodoo, those hamstrings. Who was it that got the hamstring 2 years ago? Was that Ojemudia that, wiped out his whole year basically with a hamstring? So be careful with that. We haven't seen Riley Moss. Looking forward to seeing him out there, but just, you gotta be safe with that.
Fortunately, Damari Mathis has looked pretty good out there. He was involved in a scuffle yesterday, reportedly, but he's looked. I was really impressed with him in that 49ers game. Benjamin's here. Good to see you, Benjamin. I also saw that we had Money Moore saying Scott's at Empower Field as we speak. Scott's going to need to get
60,000 of my good friends.
He's going to need a new picture because I saw Denver's account put out the video of the new screen today.
It's
bigger,
taller.
better. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they went that, and that's a really cool screen. I took that picture with D-Dub from Hawaii, gave us those tickets when we went for the meet and greet last year. Phenomenal seats, great picture, and I've used this for my background ever since. So it's been almost a year because it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous view.
Yeah, it is an awesome view and fun to see that. We also got our guy Gary Palmer coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos country. Go Broncos and Buckham. Good to see you, Gary. Thank you so much for the $9.99. Really getting us rolling today. Andrew Lampy's in the house with the coffee. And we also have coming in here. I guess I'll make that announcement now. But Greg Smith saying congratulations. As that falls, I'm expecting a little Bronco fan coming out here. So coming in, little Bronco fan, January 2024. So wife is, as they say, on the nest. And I'm going to be a father here in the next, 5 months. So, yeah, right in time for Broncos playoffs. It'll be great.
Yeah, there you go. Well, congratulations, man. I'm happy for both of you. I have all the faith in the world that you guys are going to be awesome parents.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate those super chats coming in now. So don't spit up that coffee there, Scott.
But, you almost went with the coffee filter on this one, as I almost spewed coffee all over my camera.
Yeah, absolutely. So the meet and greet will be really fun because I'll have my pregnant wife there as well. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, thank you guys for the congratulations, and yeah, it's big news, first kid. So that'll be awesome. Really excited for that. We have Tim Durs in the house. Morning, Nick and Scott. What's good, Broncos country? And a lot of thank you and congratulations. Yeah, you guys are awesome. This community, I was so excited to tell everybody in here. So thank you guys so much for your support. And yep, little Bronco fan on the way. Don't know anything other than that they're healthy and late January due date. So we'll see. Back on track here. Yeah, congratulations. Thanks, guys, so much. It's parenting's a very cool thing. I'm gonna have to probably change my wilderness backpacking trips here for at least a little bit, but
give him more time to pod from home.
More time to pod from home. Yeah, more time to write stories. Chad will be happy about that. Hope this kid likes the outdoors though, because a lot of vacations in their future will be in a tent on a road in some backcountry area, I'm sure. But
there's enough to do outside. You can find something for everybody. Like I don't fish. I don't like it. I've never liked it, but I'll go hike. I'll go hike with you for hours.
Yep.
I'll climb and do all that kind of stuff, but not a fisher. But it's nice though. It's what grandparents are for. You can usually find, it's like, okay, this, like, I don't like, my son likes to fish. I don't like to fish. Grandpa, it's like, so it works out. The extended family helps.
Yep. Yeah, and falling soft, my dad took me backpacking all the time as a kid, and it was the best thing he could have done for me. And as Dr. Van Nostrand said, there goes the hiking in the wilderness. Nah, they're coming with.
That's right.
So
That's right.
damn well,
Bug spray and sunscreen and plenty of water, and you're good to go, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I already carry about 60 pounds into the wilderness of extra stuff. I'll have to figure out to cut down a little bit of weight on that, but that means I can just carry the kid stuff for him. So thank you guys so much for all the support. And let's get back in on those. Good luck with those early mornings, Dad. We're here already in the early mornings. I'm up at 5 every morning, so I'll probably be okay there. I can function pretty well without sleep. I say that before I've had a kid, so we'll see what that looks like. Ask me in a year. But that's kind of one of my friends say it's one of my superpowers. Like, oh, I've gone.
May your first one be as easy as my first one. He was sleeping through the night at 8 weeks.
Okay.
Which it seems like a long 8 weeks at the time, but then 8 weeks later, you're like, where'd that go? Oh my God, he's 14 and he's in high school now. What happened?
Yeah. And fortunately, I live in a place where we have a guaranteed 3 months paternity leave and 3 months maternity leave. So we'll have 6 months with the kid. But you're about to really find out, Nick, if I'm okay without sleep. Yeah, we'll find out. But back to the Broncos. It's thank you guys for all the shout outs and the support and the hashtag Nick's Baby Fund.
Remember what we were talking about right before we went on?
The computer.
No, not that. We were talking about naturally feeding for babies, breastfeeding for babies. That's another gift for Dad.
Yeah.
Dad can't do that. So Dad gets to sleep in a little bit more.
Yeah. Don't have to birth them, don't have to breastfeed them, but they really got the raw end of the stick. I don't know.
Oh yeah. You treat your mom like a freaking queen when you see what they have to go through, for God's sakes. Ugh. This population would go extinct if it were up to men.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. But back to the Broncos. Thank you guys so much for the for all the support and the kind words and the good vibes. Broncos yesterday, they had a joint practice. The Rams were in town, and we talked a lot yesterday, Scott, just looking at the Rams roster, that on paper, this looks like a pretty poor overall Rams team. They're considered to be one of the bottom 5 win total teams in the NFL this season. And we thought that this would be an okay matchup for the Broncos, so that they should match up and beat the Rams well in these joint practices. Unfortunately, it sounds like yesterday's reporting was that the Rams looked better on both sides of the ball. The Broncos offense looked clunky. They struggled a bit moving the football against the Rams. And the Rams offense was carving up that Broncos defense a good bit. It sounded like Matt Stafford looked like the Matt Stafford of 2 years ago, very underrated quarterback, injured last season. But the Broncos overall struggled, and there was a lot of, from the Broncos offense specifically, Sean Payton's voiced extreme frustration with false starts and drops. And he even had maybe even a little bit of a dig in there, saying doesn't matter pretty much whatever you do if you can't catch the ball. That's what you're paid to do, essentially, catch the ball.
He said, what is he looking for from the film? And it almost sounded like he was saying, I don't even want to watch the film. I saw what I needed to see out there, and it was ugly. What I want to see tomorrow are the corrections. That's today. In practice 2 is I want to see the corrections. So, again, face adversity, rise to it. These joint practices are going to be better. We've said it all along. These joint practices are going to be better work for you than anything you've done up until this point and anything you will do until your first game. So did you have a bad day? Maybe. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm just riffing off what you were talking about. I'm not going to hit the panic button just yet. The Rams are in the same system for how long now? They might have some new players and stuff, but it's the same system, same quarterback, same, very similar offensive lineman. Throw in Steve Avila, who we really liked coming out.
Loved Steve Avila.
Coming out, I like my chances with that interior offensive line against the interior defensive line at times, especially if you're going against number 2s. And we know the Broncos offense isn't there yet. We've talked about it all week. What was the biggest concern that I had coming out of this game was the lack of timing in the passing game. Okay, well, that gets better. Should get better.
Yeah. So frustration from Sean Payton about the Broncos offense. He's also frustrated about their conditioning. He mentioned that even though the pace of plays was faster than you will see in an actual game setting. He thought that his team wore down a little bit quickly. So things that he, has been preaching, really wanted to come in and clean up. Bill Parcells' disciple, the discipline and the conditioning, both apparently looked rather poor in comparison to the Rams yesterday. So this is all secondhand. Scott and I were not boots on the ground, only media there, but somewhat concerning. So Scott, I'm going to ask you, how concerned should we be from this one Rams practice? Because, on paper, this is not a good Rams roster. And if the Broncos were that emphatically beaten, can we take anything from that? Is there something that big conclusions?
We've seen regular season games where good teams get blown out. Let's roll back to Vic Fangio 2021 going into Dallas. So that was at Dallas, going in and just embarrassing them. Just wipe them out. So no, I'm not going to. The problem for the Broncos fans is like this feels like the same old, and that's concerning. But I've got a little bit more faith in this coaching staff and the roster to know that this will get better. He wasn't good. Sean Payton's a great coach. He's not going to come in and wave a magic wand in 6 years of problems. Even the last 2 years of problems, even the last year of problems are going to magically all just go away in OTAs and training camp. It's going to take some time. We've been asked before, Nick, how long do you think it'll take before we think where we know where this team is, where we've got a feeling where this offense is really clicking, where we start seeing the best out of the Denver Broncos? And at the earliest, I think we said week 4 to 6. So I'm not going to worry too much about it. I would watch somebody getting boat raced and think, okay, I've got some decisions to make at this position if I'm out there evaluating. And can I financially? Is it someone that I have financial flexibility with? But no, I'm not going to, I'm not ready to chuck the baby out the bathwater. That seems like an apropos old phrase now.
Yeah, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, and I just really hope that they bounce back today. If it's kind of the same thing again today, then maybe I'll be hitting the panic button a little bit, because it sounds like it was a lot of the people who are expected to be starters getting beat rather thoroughly. So we'll see how that plays out, and just execution errors. It sounded like an indirect shot at Jerry Jeudy apparently Jerry Jeudy had some drop issues today, and then Sean Payton had some stuff to say about drops. But Gary Palmer, $9.99, says, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos country. Go Broncos and Buckham. I think we already got Gary, but that's okay. We'll have Gary again.
You can never get too much GLP.
No, absolutely not. Lawrence Rivera saying this is going to be a good test for our cornerbacks. This is a pass-heavy team. Rams have been pretty balanced. It's just everything is out of 11 personnel. So that'll be interesting to follow there for them this season. It's going to be a good test for those young cornerbacks. Apparently, Cooper Kupp had a good time, and he got the best of Surtain a few times. That's going to happen, especially in a practice setting.
Well, and especially if he's in the slot and he's got room to go all over the place.
Yeah.
We've talked about it before. A well-thrown ball on a good route is indefensible. I don't care how good you are, especially in a practice setting. It's indefensible. So, don't worry about it too much. Again, Pat Surtain was having a bad day. Okay, well, then maybe they all just had a bad day. Not that big a deal. Troy says, hey, congrats to the new dad.
Thank you.
That'd be you. Scott, anyone we could trade to Atlanta for one of their defensive linemen? Happy Purcell is back at a reduced price. That will help. I don't think trade is what you're looking for here. I think there's going to be a couple decent players from the Atlanta Falcons that will not make the 53 on the defensive line. Two guys I would keep an eye on the DL. Speaking of former XFL guys, LaCale London is a player that I thought has flashed really well. Watch him. They play tonight, so keep an eye on these guys. It could be available. Number 72 on the defensive line, LaCale London, looked fantastic last week. Joe Gaziano is a bubble guy. He might make it, might not. And Albert Huggins, number 94, has played that 3-4 end and has looked good. And frankly, I've liked what I've seen from 74 Carlos Davis. So when you're watching the Falcons tonight on NFL Network, keep an eye on those guys, because I don't think they're making the 53. And I think they would, at least one of those guys could fit in a 6-man rotation for the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Broncos do. They were working out and they signed a 6'3", 300-pound guy. So it seems like they're looking for a 4-eye, 3 technique body type. I thought before that, like, that's interesting. You think they'd be maybe looking for a little bit more of a mass guy because Tyler Lancaster has looked only okay out there, and Mustafa looks like a practice squad year one kind of guy. Well, now we got the news that Mike Purcell is all but guaranteed to be back, and we'll get into the details on that in a bit. But that means you have your base package nose tackle, that guy when it's 3-4 and you really want to free up DJ Jones a little bit, or DJ Jones needs some reps off. You got Mike Purcell there, who did pretty darn well.
You needed the 320 plus guy in the middle of that defense if you were going to run a 3-4 at all, ever.
Yep.
And Purcell does a job. I think I looked it up, talking about, that contract, even before the restructure, I think he was like 36, but he was after 32 for defensive tackles in cap hit this year. It's like, he's not paid a ton, y'all. He was making less than your kicker and your punter when I started covering this team 2 years ago. And then you wonder why you're having trouble stopping guys in the middle. Well, you don't have any investment in the middle. Purcell has earned his value. And I think he can do a job for this team. So I think it'll be a positive to have him back for, even if it's just 1st and 10.
Mm-hmm. You need a rotation of different body types. And also it's going to be matchup by matchup. If you're playing a heavy run team, Purcell's going to have a lot of snaps. If you're playing a 10 personnel, air raid style offense, maybe Purcell won't have as much. The big thing with Purcell is that he doesn't offer much of anything in the pass rush department. Doesn't have to, but that does limit him. You can find pluggers out there, maybe not great ones. You can find pluggers for cheap. The biggest issue, though, has been injuries. He's just been not super available, been dealing with injuries. I mean, he just came off the NFI, the non-football injury list, passed a physical. We get the news of that $3.5 million contract that he was going to get. None of it guaranteed, I believe. That is restructured on a lesser rate now. So he's going to be back in that room, and I think we feel pretty good about 3 guys for sure making the team here for the Broncos, and Purcell, DJ Jones, and Zach Allen. After that, a little bit up in the air. It sounds like Jonathan Harris has had a good camp. I'm pretty sure he'll be there. Pretty sure Matt Henningsen will be there as well. After that, it's a question mark. So Elijah Garcia has been
6 guys.
I think I only named 5.
You got your 3 starters, and then you went to Jonathan Harrison. You went to Henningsen.
That was it.
And then did you put Purcell in with the first group?
Yes.
Okay, because there's 5.
Yep. So you still need
one more. Andrew says, "Congratulations and welcome to the best club to be in, Nick. And here's some diaper money for you." Woo! So thank you very much.
Yeah, shout out to my dad too,
to Andrew,
finding this little Bronco fan with the old school logo. So excited for them to wear that.
And Richard says, "Hey, y'all, congrats to the Kendalls. Are we set at DL now? Appreciate you coming in from across the pond, Richard. I think if you were listening to us, the answer would be no. I don't think the new signing. I didn't commit his name to memory. It's like Loma Toyasi or something. He's all I thought of in my mind. His name is camp body, possible practice squad. That's his name. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's gonna fit or could be part of your rotation. That said, it's happened before. Where guys have come in like this with resumes like this and outkick their coverage, so to speak. But no, I think you're still looking for another 300-pound big body to fit into that 6-man depth chart on the interior defensive line.
Yeah, so still looking for another guy out there. Would be good. And shout out to my dad. There he is, Darren Kendall, coming in the 1999. Thanks,
congratulations, Dad. Grandpa. Speaking of best jobs,
yeah. So he was. It was pretty funny when they were out here. My wife was in Italy at a conference with her mother when she was pretty early pregnant. And my parents were out here. I was with them for 5-6 days, and I was sitting on that information. And then when my wife got back, ended up telling them, and their faces were priceless. They did not see it coming.
No, I didn't know if I was ever going to have kids. I was 36 before my first was born, and I'm an only. Yeah, big surprise, I know. And my mom has 3 sisters in Ohio. I was born in Ohio. All they do in the Midwest is breed. I swear, there's just kids coming everywhere. Mm-hmm. And here's my mom. No grandchildren. So I actually wrote a poem to let her know it was I think it was on her birthday, because it was New Year's Eve or Christmas of that year, and let her know it was her 60th birthday. That was her birthday present. It was her 60th birthday. Oh my God, I'll never forget that moment when I told her she was going to be a grandma.
Tears.
Boo, big old boo-hoo. So congratulations, Mr. Kendall. I could probably call you Darren. You're closer to your age than your sons.
Yeah, so thanks, Dad. Appreciate you. You and Mom are going to be great grandparents. So yeah, let's back at it. The Broncos, the defensive line, they are still looking, in my opinion, for a 3 technique body type. You do feel a little bit better now. I guess my question for you, Scott, is would you expect, out of these players, who do you expect to have a higher snap count this season? Jonathan Harris or Mike Purcell? It really comes down to what is DJ Jones's best fit, because is it that 4-3 technique kind of spot, or is it that nose tackle? Because that might determine who gets more.
I think a guy on the outside gets more reps. I think Harrison has less competition for that spot. But because to your point, what you're saying is Harrison in competition with DJ Jones? If he is, then DJ Jones is going to play more of the 3-4 end, where I think is his best spot. Or if you go to a 4-3, you can slide both Zach Allen and DJ Jones inside in pass rush situations, and you're in good shape there. And then both Purcell and probably Jonathan Harrison are coming off the field.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'd probably expect to see your top 2 guys with 65, 70% of the snaps, and maybe 25 to 30 for Purcell and maybe 35 to 40 for Harrison.
It really depends on what becomes more of the base for this defense. We saw
so many, there's so many subs.
Yeah, exactly. I think you may be a little high on those top 2 guys, just how much rotation you do see there. But
it's coming in for them. And
yeah,
again, if you're coming in, if you put in pass rushing situations, who are your interior linemen?
Probably DJ Jones and Zach Allen, unless you want to see something with like
3-4 base.
Oh, 3-4 base.
Who are your linemen? Probably DJ Jones and probably Zach Allen.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, like, no matter how you run out there, DJ Jones and Zach Allen are going to be your guys. And after, you showed me that, I don't remember who it was, you were saying had like 96% of the snaps at defensive line.
Max Crosby.
It was Max Crosby. That's right. And I looked up Myles Garrett, and he was like 85% was one of his highs. That I think 65 to 70% for Zach Allen, especially. Zach Allen will lead this team in snaps on the defensive line. DJ Jones, a little bit heavier, probably needs a little bit more rotation. Yeah. Yep. Zach Allen is going to lead this team in snaps from the DL.
Hopefully, if everybody stays healthy. Yep. But I'm curious to see who ends up getting more snaps. Is it going to be Purcell or is it going to be Jonathan Harris? So going to be interesting to see what happens. We got some more super chats coming in. David Carmelo already ready for the NFL draft. It's going to be a good one this upcoming year. He says, if the Broncos start the season 0-4, which is possible, would you jump on the crash for Caleb or dump for Drake train? That'll be a reality, a possible reality, I guess. I just can't imagine this team. They finished 5th last season, and it was an unbelievable dumpster fire where, like, they were terrible in 1-score games. They were terribly coached. The quarterback played horrible. You lost the most
line
games.
Was a disaster. Just throw that into the terribly coached and personnel.
And you lost, according to Football Outsiders, the most games from injury of any team in the NFL. And you still only finished the 5th worst team? I don't know how that could even possibly happen this season for the Broncos. Maybe there's a chance where they could trade up for one, not maybe the second quarterback there. But these 2 quarterbacks are, really damn good. I don't want to put them in the Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck tier just yet. We want to see what this year looks like, but there's a possibility that both these guys could be talked of in that light. They're that talented. So I guess it's possible if the Broncos start 0-4, we have to consider that reality, but I don't know how likely that is given how terrible everything was last year, and you still only finished with the 5th pick.
To answer the question for how it was asked, 0-4 against Vegas at home, Washington at home, at Miami, at Chicago. If you start 0-4, I would be advocating for just burn it down.
Yeah.
Just plan for it. Play as many young players as you can. Figure out who's going to be with you in the next year. Start working for the trade deadline. Start moving cap around as much as you can. that might be too premature, giving all the things I just said about, camp and not too worried about it and how long it's going to take for this team to really start hitting its stride. But if you're 0-4 and then the New York Jets come to town, then you go to Kansas City, Green Bay comes to town, then Kansas City comes to town, then you go to Buffalo, then you've got the Vikings, who were 14-3 last year?
Regression.
The problem with 0-4 is it could become 1-7 in a hurry, 1-8 in a hurry. So the likelihood of it, I'm with Nick. But to answer your question, if scenarios, coaches won't do that. You want to see a coach get pissed off, ask him an if this happens question. We're not talking hypotheticals here. We do. That's what we do
all the time.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see it happening either. I think 2-2 and you're still looking in the right direction. 2-2 and you're seeing positive signs. You're still headed in the right direction.
Yeah. So one game at a time, David. I'm on to Vegas right now. Let's just get it 1-0, and if not, we'll see what happens. I'm honestly also. I mean, he's not Drake May or Caleb Williams, but I think Riley Leonard out of Duke is somebody that we need to keep an eye on as well. I've been impressed. He doesn't have the overall arm talent of those two guys, but he is a really accurate, smart, and man, that guy can fly. He is actually a pretty good athlete. It's surprising.
The problem I have right now, and I had this when I would rank players, is as a national recruiting manager, I had 5 regional managers that would rank their regions, and then we would come together and try and put those guys in some sort of national order, which is impossible to do because you've got different people and you've got different agendas, and I need this guy here, and it's like, but Nick, if you're my West Coast manager and you put a guy at the very top that I don't like, it screws everybody else. So it's like, okay, this is your number one guy. Well, I think he's about 50 in the country. So the next highest guy from the West Coast possibly could be 51. So why I'm saying that is when you talk quarterbacks to me and I look and see Bo Nix like 3rd or 4th, I have problems with the quarterback class.
It's a deep class, and I urge everybody to look what Bo Nix did last season compared to what he was.
I'll try and skadoosh and flush the brain of what I saw from Bo Nix for 3 years.
Yeah. And
then the one game he comes back to the South in Oregon, and looks like the same Bo Nix.
Yeah.
Completely overwhelmed.
Yep.
But yeah, it makes it hard for me to think if you're ranked behind Bo Nix, I don't want you. That's how I look at that.
Yeah. And I would have Bo Nix probably my 6th quarterback entering this season. I do a little projection here on this, but young players and hoping for some ascension. JJ McCarthy at Michigan, extremely toolsy, and Quinn Ewers at Texas. Is Texas back? It's going to be an interesting year for the Longhorns last year in the Big 12.
The consensus right now is Caleb Williams, Drake May, Quinn Ewers, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, JJ McCarthy, Jordan Travis, KJ Jefferson, Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado. That might be Deion Jr. or,
it is.
Joe Milton, Tennessee, Riley Leonard, all the way down to 102. And he's actually fallen some, but I use the NFL mock draft database. They do a good job of coming up with a composite.
Yep. Keep an eye out for Riley Leonard.
Yeah. I will. My wife went to Duke. I like to keep an eye on the Dukies. And
I think Duke plays Florida State pretty early, and Florida State's like almost everyone's darling right now. Florida State's got a wide receiver I love. But
I know about Jared Verse.
Yes, and Jared Verse. So yeah, Florida State's going to be a fun team this year. But back to the Broncos here. We're already getting ahead of ourselves. Just keep an eye out for Riley Leonard. I feel like he is a really smart and good at short accuracy. And I'd like, put that guy with Sean Payton. That would be pretty interesting to see what happens. But back to the Broncos. Really happy to have Mike Purcell back on this team. The defensive line is going to be that much better now. We've been concerned about their ability to stop guys up front. And I think Mike Purcell, as long as he can stay healthy, brings that. You do have a lot of long-term questions about the defensive line still, other than your top 2 guys, kind of like where we were entering this offseason. But if they can find somebody in there, just, rotational can be better. I think you can get through the season with it not being a total detriment, assuming everybody can stay healthy. And I think that has as much to do with how high I am and how underrated I think DJ Jones is. Is DJ Jones an all-pro defensive lineman? No. But if he
He's not
plays
far
as well,
off.
if he plays as well as he has this offseason, I think he at least should get some Pro Bowl consideration.
Yeah, he's
out there.
really good. No problems with him at all. The two free agent defensive guys he got from San Francisco last year were both hits. K'Wan Williams was one of my favorite players last year. And then DJ Jones, obviously. And again, a lot of this, we talk about defense being about, Jimmy's and Joe's, but a lot of this I think will be schematic because you're so strong on the perimeters that you're going to funnel things into those linebackers. So Alex Singleton and Josie Jewell, and we'll see how Drew Sanders gets used. They could have 400 tackles this year. I think they were knocking on the door of 300 last year. That you're not looking for penetration. You're not looking for tackles for loss. You're just looking, stand your ground and let the linebackers flow and make sure that you're funneling them into these guys because they're pretty good. They're pretty good at what they do.
Yeah, going to be interesting to follow that. Everybody keeps saying Jonathan Harris has turned the corner and it's really started to click for him. It's defensive linemen, especially some of those undrafted guys, later draft picks. Sometimes it can take 3, 4, 5 years for them to have that body type and mass and understand the technique. So worth following here, but bringing in Purcell back is going to help a lot. And shout out to him for restructuring his deal as well to stay in Denver. He's a Colorado-born guy, played football at Wyoming. Sounds like he's just a great person as well. And we're always pulling for people like that. So shout out to Purcell and happy he's here. Feel better about the defensive line. He's been somebody that we've talked about, at least I've talked a lot about moving on from just because he hasn't been there. He's been on the NFI list and it was an easy way to free up a little bit of cash, but I'd rather have him here, especially at a reduced rate. So excited to have him there. And the defensive line and the questions we've had about stopping the run, I think are that much less concerning today than they were yesterday.
When we talk about trench play, what do we usually say is the prime for a player like that in the trenches as far as age goes?
26 to 29, probably about that.
Jonathan Harris just turned 27 years old.
Okay.
So, again, those are grown man positions. And unless you're just a freak among the freaks out there, it can take some time to get out there. So he just turned 27 years old. They call it old man strength for a reason. These guys it just takes a while. The guys that have been in the weight room for an extra 5 years, it matters. Speed, not so much. You're about as fast at 20 as you'll ever be. So we're rooting for the guy. I mean, without a doubt, him showing up and being a plus for this team would be an unexpected. It'd be a gift. It'd be gravy for sure.
And what it would do for the linebackers as well. Right now, it seems the Broncos are going to be pretty aggressive with their second level of the defense, coming down, blitzing, not ad-libbing, so to speak, but a little bit more freelance work and some kind of plays here and there. Have somebody that can be a chaser out there, and having Purcell out there who has a more prototypical build of a nose tackle, a little bit more length and mass than DJ Jones. And then DJ Jones next to him, you can really free up some linebackers and defensive backs in that situation. So can be great. I think it was the Cowboys last season. A lot of teams are starting to figure out, hey, if we actually have somebody who's super dominant at that one technique spot, then that can free guys up. I think the Dallas defense dropped 0.2 EPA per play or something outrageous once they started playing Jonathan Hankins last season. It's one of the reasons they drafted Mozzie Smith, because what it did freeing up that defense and not having to contribute as many bodies to the box when you have somebody that can play those extra gaps.
I mean, think of those big Baltimore defenses. What was it? Was it Nada that was in there? Just a monster. How about the Gravedigger from Green Bay Packers when they were solid? If I can take on two guys and hold them there, it's a crap position. I mean, it's the ultimate in dirty work, but it matters. And having a guy like Purcell comes back. And Keith has a good question. He says, doesn't Purcell reworking his deal make him more able to be cut if he doesn't come fully back from his mystery injury / back? Depends. Usually when they rework a deal in the positive, what they'll do is they'll take the money that they were owed and turn it into a signing bonus, which then becomes guaranteed money. For a player that they might have been thinking about waiving, then it probably is just less money. I was just trying to look up Purcell's money before. I don't remember what it was,
It's
but yeah, it
3.5
looks like
million.
it's been knocked. It looks like they've already adjusted it on Spot Rack, and they're good. But he's got a dead cap hit of nothing. It's $280,000. So this was almost we're strongly considering cutting you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to come in on a lesser deal, it might make us more willing to keep you. Otherwise, hit the bricks. So when we talk about restructuring deals, you have to have leverage on somebody like that with either financially, they don't have their big dead cap hit with previous guarantees, or you're willing to cut them. You know, the restructure phrase gets thrown around so much, Nick, that people are like, well, why don't we just restructure that deal? Because not every contract is restructurable in your favor.
You need to have leverage.
You need to have leverage on the player, or, you know, be willing to, oh yeah, we want to keep this guy around an extra 3 years than what we have him under contract for.
Yep. So Purcell back, feel really good about that overall for the Broncos. We got Kyle Wielden coming in with the diaper fund. I love this. $50 from Kyle says, congrats, Nick. Hashtag Nick's diaper fund. Thank you so much for the support. And yeah, I don't know. Reusable diaper, Scott, yay, nay. Is that too gross? No?
No, God, no.
Okay.
I'm all about the environment stuff, but man, put those things in a bin and get rid of them.
Incinerate them. Okay. All right. Well, good to hear. We'll see. I want
to say, you know, a triple thank you to Kyle. Here's what's interesting about Kyle, because I didn't recognize the name. I just did a search through, I keep, you know, our records. If that's not your first super chat, then it's one of the first. Coming in big, coming in on the morning show. Kyle, you're a prince. So thank you very much for the support for Broncos for breakfast and for the little Kendall.
On the way. Yep. Don't know anything other than they're healthy, and we're at 18 weeks. So yeah, excited. I mean, the first day of the second trimester when we had that scan, knew everything was good. It's like, okay, I can't sit on it anymore. We gotta tell some people. So
Nick, also, sorry, before I forget, this is my ADD kicking in. We need to talk Jonathan Taylor because that's what everybody's talking about right now.
Yes, we do. So I was going to pivot to that defensive line, though. Happy to have Purcell back. Moving forward, Ian Rappaport was on the Rich Eisen show yesterday over on NBC Sports, I think, and Rich Eisen. Could be wrong there. But he did an interview saying there have been teams making calls on the Colts for star running back Jonathan Taylor out of the University of Wisconsin. And the two teams he said there's a number of teams that are interested, but he only listed two teams by name. That of the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. And also we have Cecil Lammy, who covers the Broncos Insider, done really good job out there in Denver, covering them for Denver Sports Now. He has a tweet out here saying, I'm told two teams most interested are Miami and Denver. Maybe coming directly from that Rappaport thing. Who knows? These guys, have a lot of overlap in who they talk to and where the information comes from. But sounds like the Broncos are at least approaching the possibility of trading for Jonathan Taylor. The Colts have put it out there that they're looking for a first-round pick. I think that would not happen. I'd be pretty damn shocked if somebody traded a first and then paid Jonathan Taylor what he's asking for on top of it. But Broncos seem to be at least interested in adding the former NFL scrimmage yard leader, I think 2 years ago, and really good
rushing leader, and he's averaging. He averaged like 6 yards a carry in his real big season, and he's still young. He's 24 years old, I think. Mm-hmm. And he had his first injury, like it was the first time he'd missed a practice since high school last year, and he's been a little banged up since then. But his contract is dirt cheap because he was a second-round pick and he's in the fourth year of that contract. He's not, you trade for him, it's going to have to come with a contract, or else you're in the same situation that the Colts are in. He's not playing for the Colts right now because he wants to get a contract extension / new contract. So if you are going to sign him, and he's looking for, I don't think Christian McCaffrey money, 15 to 16 million, but it's going to be in the neighborhood of 8 figures, where it's going to be 10 million a year on a somewhat guaranteed deal that it's going to cost you probably 20 to 25 million across 3 years. And a first round pick. No, thank you. The team that makes the most sense for me still right now is the Indianapolis Colts, because they don't have to give up any draft picks to get him. Mm-hmm. have the bridges been burned so bad? Because what I'm hearing is that the second that he's out the door, they're going to announce they've signed Kareem Hunt. Why not just go sign Kareem Hunt? He's a free agent, wouldn't cost you anything as far as draft picks go. But the Jonathan Taylor one doesn't make a ton of sense to me unless we hadn't seen Javonte Williams. I've seen Javonte Williams. We've seen Javonte Williams. We're done talking about what a miracle would be if Javonte Williams is out there. Is he the Javonte Williams of 2021 right now? Maybe not. Should he get better and better and better as the weeks go on? Yeah, he should. Absolutely. You've got 2 years of control of Javonte Williams. You're going to be talking about his contract next year. Jonathan Taylor to the Broncos doesn't make any sense to me, Nick.
The fact that you have to pay him a second contract, and the other thing that scares the absolute hell out of me with Jonathan Taylor is that because of his college career, I'm wondering how much tread is still on the tires long term. I know he's only 24 years old, but Scott, this is an unfair ask, but we gotta play the game. How many touches do you think he had in 3 years at Wisconsin?
900.
Pretty damn good guess. 968 touches over 3 years. It's not like Javonte Williams coming in where it just is like his redshirt sophomore season and junior year where he split carries. He had Wisconsin, and Wisconsin's notable for doing this, but they rode.
They'll burn out a running back. Ask Rondane. I mean,
yes,
they've done it for years.
I mean, God, just number of running backs. 960.
Go get their number 2. Who was their number 2 a couple years ago? Came from Florida. Had almost an Italian name. Went to. I'm missing this up. They had Jonathan White. Did they have a Jonathan White? Their number 2 went to North Carolina.
Oh, you're talking about Michael Carter?
No, I'm screwing this. I've screwed it up completely.
Okay.
2 guys came from the same school. It was like St. Thomas Aquinas, and one of them went to North Carolina and ended up in the NFL. That's where I had the 2 guys mixed up. The number 1 went to Wisconsin. The number 2 guy went to UNC. And it wasn't Michael Carter. He had kind of an Italian name, and I'm screwing this up completely. I apologize.
Okay. Well, somebody will get it. But I worry about the overall touches he's already had. Last season, he looked dreadful. Now the Colts in general were pretty terrible last year. The offensive line kind of went into the tank and just seemed like not as bad as the Broncos dysfunction, but a lot of dysfunction there. But he dropped a bit, and now you're talking about trading a first-round pick for him and then giving up, massive capital in terms of contract and cap room to sign him and keep him. I think it's pretty risky to do overall. Paying a running back, I'm not sure if I'm a proponent of ever paying a running back a big second contract. I'm more interested in the P. Ryans of the world if you're talking about guys outside of their rookie contract. So it would be a no for me. But Scott, can you make the case of why the Broncos would do this or should do this? What is about Jonathan Taylor and a trade that should make Broncos fans excited if they did get him in here?
Because if he's healthy, he's arguably the best running back in football. Again, he had in 2021, he was the rushing leader by like 50%. He had 1,800 yards rushing. The next closest was like 1,300. He had an extra 500 yards on the number 2. He's got turn the corner and leave you behind breakaway type of speed. He's not, and it's strange. It's not like 10-100 meter speed. It's running back usable speed. I break a tackle and I'm gone.
Yeah.
Now my what I wanted to look up on him is receptions, and he's still a pretty good receiver. So you talk about that year he had the 1,800 yards. He had 300 carries. We had 40 receptions that year too. So he was knocking on the door of 400 carries. Last time I remember a guy that I was paying attention to, you saw him in Super Bowl after the 98 season, had 400 touches and set a record, was Jamal Anderson. Jamal Anderson didn't make it through the second week of the season in 1999 before his knee went. So he protected himself. He's protected himself, gotten surgery and stuff. Could he be 100% with a year off and refresh? You get another 5-6 years out of him the way you have with Derrick Henry? Possibly. Yeah. But he's arguably the best running back in football when he's healthy.
Yeah, he's been very, very good. He was great at Wisconsin, too. I'm kind of glad that Wisconsin, although they have Braylon Allen, who's just an absolute tank there right now. I'll be curious to see how he looks in that the team there. And Albert asked, what's the difference between a tailback like Taylor and running back like Pookie? Well, tailback and running back are synonyms to me.
Tailback typically means the eye. where you're coming out of an I formation with a fullback lined up in front of you, but it's a running back. A running back is, you can call them halfbacks, you can call them tailbacks. Those are still running backs. In essence, a fullback is a running back also. But running back is the all-encompassing position of someone who lines up behind the quarterback and gets the ball. That's a running back. Where you line them up, if you're in a wishbone, you might change that up a little bit, or something. Split back. Usually, it's two running backs, would they call it? In an old pro formation. But a tailback typically means you're running an I formation, and he's the running back with a fullback in front of him. So not much, Albert. Appreciate the question.
As far as the skill set goes, I think Pookie is a little bit more quick. I think he's quicker in a short area. I think he's got a little bit more of ability to stay balanced and low. But I think Jonathan Taylor is more explosive in a straight line. So you kind of have that downhill. If he busts, I think of him almost like a Clinton Portis kind of back, where he's big, thoroughbred going through the line. And Javonte Williams, I don't think has the breakaway speed that Jonathan Taylor does, but I think he's a little bit more balanced, elusive in the open field, if that makes sense. They're both power backs, but I think that Taylor is more of a slasher overall.
Taylor is a speed back with power. I didn't realize he was 225, so he doesn't look that big. Pookie looks that big. Pookie's a tackle-to-tackle guy. You're running off tackle with him. You're not running old student body rights, and big sweeps with him where you can do that. And I think Jonathan Taylor's probably a little bit more flexible. You see him in the passing game. Pookie isn't a great receiver. He's not 100% natural, where I think Jonathan Taylor is. I think Taylor's got a little bit more wiggle.
You do? Okay. I always thought of him more. The wiggle, it's hard to explain. The wiggle that Williams has is more because of his body type in the low center of gravity, where it's not like totally making guys whiff, but like one arm.
And you're not going to get me with an arm. You better hit me head on if you've got any chance at all, and then you're going to pay for it.
Yeah, where Taylor, I think, is more of a true slasher, where, you run in a scheme, and if he gets to that second level, he could be square at the hips of the linebackers and gone. You don't see that as much with Javonte Williams at his prime. But I think Williams is a little bit better in breaking tackles in tight spaces than
I do too.
Jonathan
I think he runs
Taylor.
with more power.
Yeah.
Just when I think wiggle, I think, can I make you miss?
Yeah, I meant wiggle in a sense of it's in a phone booth, and then he's going to put in a position where that guy is not going to be able to tackle him.
Yeah, and I think wiggle is open space. Can I make you miss so I don't have to break a tackle? Do I have more juice? That's what I think of wiggle.
Yeah.
So we agree. We just need to come to terms on our terminology here. Keith Brugman says, "Is Javonte healthy?" Yeah. Is he still recovering? Yes. Is he to 100% of where he was before the knee injury? Not yet. And that just is going to come with time. Muscle atrophy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know he's put time in the weight room, but the more you play, they call it game speed and game conditioning for a reason. And he won't be 100% until he's had some time to play. Is he healthy though? Yeah, he is. And that, as soon as I hear myself say that, I like alarm bells go off. Like, can you really say that? Yeah, I think I can.
Yeah. It's we'll find out when we find out, but really good first step there for him in that preseason game, and really amazing. Richard coming in here with the €2 saying should be engaged in the Trey Lance trade story. And then we had another super chat coming in here from Duke Rose saying I'd trade for Trey Lance, go Broncos. If Trey Lance is available for like a third round pick, I would not be against approaching that. I think that Stidham and DiNucci are fine backups, 2s and 3s. But as far as a long-term option at the quarterback position, I don't think either are going to end up, quality starters for the Broncos, where Trey Lance could be. It really depends on what George Paton and Sean Payton thought of Trey Lance coming in. But if he's available for a third, I wouldn't be against it. I think that it's a pretty crazy situation out there with the 49ers. I think Kyle Shanahan really actually never wanted to draft Trey Lance. So that was more of a front office move. And now, he's getting to make the roster calls of who's playing. So moving on from him. But Trey Lance, I think it'd be an interesting fit. You have a veteran quarterback here, which means that the quarterback coach could focus more on developing Trey Lance than, having to work technical aspects and whatnot with Russell Wilson. So yeah, for a third round pick, I wouldn't be against it. I'm curious what the market would look like if there's anything else going on there behind the scenes. but Trey Lance is still only, 23 years old, if that, 23, 24, and really talented player. I thought you saw the tools and the flashes in that Broncos game. So, yeah, for a third-round pick, I would not be against it.
Yeah, I think third would be okay, and taking the stigma off it. And I saw there was I did a search on Denver Broncos on the X before we went live, and saw a good conversation about signing Trey Lance or zero upside, and people started talking about the salary cap hit. I'm like, well, it's not quite what you think it is. If you go to Spot Rack or whatever and you just look cap hit, half of that goes to the 49ers.
Because the rookie signing bonus.
Because of the rookie signing bonus. So you'd be on the hook for base salary and roster bonus, which is, I think, 3.7 and 5.3 for the next 2 seasons. So it's costing you money more than it would cost you big draft pick. Can you afford that? Maybe, maybe not. Would taking the stigma off of having those 3 first-round picks that you're judged against in San Francisco and letting him be the true backup somewhere for a year be good for his career? Yeah, I think it would. Would being in a place like playing under Sean Payton be that? Yeah, I think it would. That would be the end of Ben DiNucci. He would be cut, and I think you would keep Trey Lance on your 53. And when you would put him on the roster as your 49th player as your emergency quarterback with the new rule, I'd take him for a third. And if I could afford the salary cap, I absolutely would, because it's 10% of what your Russell Wilson's cap hit is next year.
Yeah. And also the interesting aspect with Trey Lance is we've seen kind of what Sean Payton can do with certain packages with a big physical athletic quarterback that's almost like a fullback in Taysom Hill. So I think there'd be some goal line, third down kind of packages where they could work him in there and just use that big athletic body type that he has. Still has really good arm talent. It's just such an unfortunate set of circumstances have followed Trey Lance because he had the year lost at North Dakota State. He was drafted extremely young. He probably should have transferred to a big time program or something and played for a year, although maybe then he doesn't go through overall because we find things out.
I mean,
but as far as like career playing versus money, he needs reps.
Yeah, but so usually when someone takes you trades 3 first-round draft picks to take you, they're gonna give you a chance.
Yeah, you think so? Then you had the Brock Purdy thing. 49ers are a contender.
Injury, I mean, he won the starting job. He was the 3rd overall pick and had won the starting job.
Yep.
That's what you need. You know what would be awesome? A loan. Like they do in international football. Okay.
A loan. Okay.
A loan.
Yes.
Where they've got tiers, they've got different levels, they've got different teams.
Yep.
Where I could send a guy out on loan. I retain his rights, but you go and play for another team in another league, another country to get those reps. Go send him. I'm going to send you to the XFL for a year, and you're going to start for a season. They're going to pay me a fee, so I'm going to actually make money on your contract, and you're going to get a year of experience. I lose a year of control.
Yep.
So what? But you get a year of experience. I get a little money out of it. You get it better, and you come back, and I still then can make a decision on you coming back. A loan would be awesome. You can't do that in football because it's too dangerous. There's too many injuries.
Yep. He just needs the reps. You almost wish that they had like a minor league affiliate, like a pitcher,
Right.
like you could send him down for, a few starts, and then he needs reps. That's why I wanted him to go to a team like Commanders or the Buccaneers, who although Sam Howell looked okay. We'll see how he looks week 2, but those teams don't seem to have long-term investments at quarterback, place where he can get snaps, which I do not think is Denver. But if you can get him for a third, and if you have any thoughts that he could be a franchise quarterback, you pay that. You take that risk, in my opinion. It's a weird situation though, because you're probably not using the 5th year option on him with what right now. He's entering year 3, and the franchise tag on a quarterback is unbelievable. So really, you only have 2 years of control left.
What are you paying a backup? What are you paying a good backup right now?
I don't know,
5 million.
8 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's getting paid backup money right now.
Yeah.
So I trade a 3rd round pick for a backup quarterback
with upside.
Okay. That sounds all right.
Yeah.
He just happens to be, a former number 3 overall pick. Right now, if you said we need a backup quarterback, I'm going to trade. This might not be the best example in the world, but I'm going to trade a 3rd rounder for Sam Darnold, and he's going to come in and back up Russell Wilson. What would you think? You'd be like, all right. I mean, I'm okay with that.
other than Darnold having multiple chances, there's not
I know, but
the mystery box
you're not
package.
there yet with Trey Lance. Trey Lance
Yeah.
hasn't gotten near the opportunity that Sam Darnold is. But if you had
Yeah.
said that after year one,
Yeah, you'd be
with
like, "Oh, yeah,
Sam
I'll
Darnold, you'd
take
be
a
like,
shot."
okay, yeah, that sounds really good to me.
It's worth a
Ryan
shot.
Main comes in. We're gonna have to get out of here pretty quick.
Yeah.
He says, "You guys wish we drafted Trey Palmer yet? Watch out!" But really, what do we do at wide receiver? Are we going to just run a lot of heavy sets? I think you're still okay at wide receiver. Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Greg Dulcich. I still pile him with the wide receiver group just because I think he is a pass catching. He's a receiver. That's his. What do you call him? Tight end. You want to call him wide receiver? His job is to be a receiver.
Big slot.
Yeah, Marvin Mims, you're okay there. I still can't believe Trey Palmer lasted to the 6th. I really can't.
We loved him. We were mocking him to the Broncos a lot in the 4th, 5th round. Man, he was really impressive last year versus Iowa. Just a good player from LSU to Nebraska there. I am
Had
surprised that
1,000 yards receiving, and we saw him down at the Senior Bowl.
Mhm.
He looked to me like a possession receiver, running good routes, sticky hands. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a guy who can catch on somewhere. He goes out and runs a 4.3.
Yep.
I'm like, how did he fall to the 6th, man?
There may be when stuff like that happens, you're like, is there something behind the
Is
scenes
there a
going
tick
on?
in there that you send me in a year and says, oh yeah, this guy just got arrested that we were dogging on? That's most of the text messages I get from Nick. Remember that guy we said was in trouble all the time? Well, guess what?
Yeah. Perion Winfrey and Sam Williams, 2 guys like, oh, we see the talent there. Let's dig in a little bit.
This guy's a beast at edge. Yeah, he's in prison.
Problematic. Yeah. That's yep. Unfortunately, but yeah, curious to see what happens with Trey Palmer. He looks pretty good out there in Tampa Bay, and hopefully the Broncos hit on that Marvin Mims pick because it would be unfortunate to trade up in a second to take a Mims, and if he's outplayed by Palmer.
And real quick, Ryan, go back and watch. Was it Tuesday? We talked about biggest needs.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about what is this team missing? What are the biggest needs? And Ryan, I did say wide receiver for next year. We talked long term. Offensive tackle, I think, was probably the better shout, but wide receiver hit me as a long term need for this team because you've got 3 8-figure contracts next year on the books. You might not have any of them. I would expect you'd keep Jerry Jeudy, but Sutton, it could be a cap casualty of some sort where you move on from him. And I think Tim Patrick I think you come to an injury settlement or something with him, but I have a hard time seeing you keeping 3 8-figure contracts at wide receiver on this roster. So therefore, if you're down Sutton, if you're down Patrick, and you got Jeudy and Mims, wide receiver becomes a need for me, Nick. And you've only got, and what do you do with Jeudy? He'd only have 1 year of control.
Yeah, it's for the wide receiver spot. You need everybody else to stay healthy, and you need your top 2 guys to step up. And I guess they were not great yesterday, and disappointing last season. Those 2 guys need to really step up and become, really good number 1, number 2 kind of guys. I'm not expecting, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level, but, top 20, top 30, top 40 even from both those guys. They need to be in there. Anything worse than that, and you are probably in some serious trouble. Jeremy Sean coming in. If you guys got any super chats for the dad-to-be, make sure you get those in because we got to wrap it on up here. Says, do you guys think Albert Okwuegbunam will make the 53? I'm not sure if he does make the 53. I can't tell if the Broncos are, doing a little bit of a selling job right now, talking so positively about him. Like, oh, he's been great. Somebody give us, a 6th-round pick and we'll send a 7 with Okwuegbunam, kind of the Malik Reed special we saw last season when they had a little bit of depth. So chance he makes a roster, big athlete, has had issues, but looks like he started to improve. They do like Nate Atkins a lot as well. So I would be shocked if they didn't keep 4 tight ends. Nate Atkins versus Albert Okwuegbunam is going to be one of the more interesting back end of the roster discussions that they're going to have.
Yeah, and especially if you move Dulcich over to the wide receiver group. But kind of that's what you have to do with Okwuegbunam too is a problem. Do I think he will make the 53? My gut reaction to that is no.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Yep.
We will see because they don't have a ton of them in camp. And he's going to run a bunch of 2 tight end sets. So does he make the 53? Does he last? I guess a better question is Albert Okwuegbunam on the 53 come October 1st?
Maybe. I think another question is if you like both those guys enough, which one is more likely to make it to the practice squad, Alberto Cuebanam or Nate Atkins. So if because then you can keep, what is that, 5 of them
Well,
out
we
there.
talk about the trading and on this stuff, and like you said, that's not really a trade. It's like you send us, let's swap 7th round picks and you take Alberto Cuebanam. Okay, that's not really a trade. I don't count that. This guy was drafted in the 4th round,
4th or 5th.
I think it was early 4th. So 31 teams passed on him 3 times already. It's not like we're talking about, okay, this guy has a lot of potential and he was taken in the 2nd round and we're going to see what we can wring out of him. He was passed on by 31 teams 3 times already, drafted into the 4th round. And have you seen anything that makes you think, oh man, I really wish we would have taken him before the 4th round? No, it's gone the other direction. So again, trying to move on from it. That's not what Jeremy asked, but I have seen that question and that comment a bunch. We should trade this guy for what? He's not a tradable asset. And Michael, one of our biggest assets for this show, says, great show today, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos and buck 'em. Appreciate you being here, Michael, as always.
Yeah, appreciate you guys so much. And some NFL news real quick. Former top 10 draft pick Isaiah Simmons has been traded for a 7th round pick. Talk about late. How's that for a investment to the New York Giants?
And there you go. When top 10 pick goes for a 7th, and we're talking about Cuebanam.
Yep.
A 4th who hasn't done anything in his career, trying to trade him. I don't see it, fellas.
Probably not likely.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All y'all.
All y'all, folks. Folks is so inclusive.
Folks is good. So is y'all. Y'all's a great word.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, all y'all, hope you have a great one. We're going to get on out of here. And yeah, Jeremy says it was a 4th round pick there, but interesting to see Isaiah Simmons go. I remember a lot of people loved him coming out of Clemson, but that's one of those things with those versatile guys, right? Like, what is their home actually going to be? Are they just versatile in theory, or are they actually, able to play multiple spots?
I had that. I hated the athlete designation in recruiting. And I didn't think about it until after I was out of it. It was like, well, we can't rank them at multiple positions. Well, why not?
Yeah.
What you should do is rank them in multiple positions. If I look up, okay, he's a number 1 wide receiver, he's a number 5 corner. Because a guy like Eric Armstead would have been the number 1 offensive tackle and would have been about the number 14 defensive lineman. But I always said, okay, if you want 5 stars next to this guy as an athlete, which position is he a 5-star at? If he goes and plays this position, I know he's a tremendous athlete, but what position would he be a 5-star? So what position was this guy a top 10 pick? What position should he have been?
Isaiah Simmons?
Yeah.
I always thought his best bet was a big slot.
And is he a top 10 pick at that position?
The athleticism is there, but the actual football ability had not been.
So what does that? What am I saying then? You don't take him top 10.
No. Yeah. Yep. So the Broncos get lucky on that one. I think they had the 10th overall pick, and maybe he went 9 or 8, and then they trade down. And
Chubb?
I think that was the year that they traded down from 10 to 20 and took Noah Fant and had all that extra draft capital. And in theory, he did well with the trades. Maybe didn't hit on every pick, but that's a different discussion entirely. But yeah, Isaiah Simmons will be fascinating to see what he looks like in the New York Giants with Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator. Isaiah Simmons, one thing he does really well, he blitzes well from that slot.
I was going to say, I mean, it sounds to me, just turn him loose on the edge.
That's very, very possible with him there. So yeah, going to be fun to follow that. That Giants team is definitely an interesting one this year. The NFC East is some intrigue. As always, don't tell the mainstream media that, otherwise we'll only get NFC East games. But thanks, guys, so much. Thank you, everybody, for the support for the Nick's Diaper Fund for this little tight coming here. End of January, early February. We'll see whatever happens there. But thanks, everybody, for the love and support there. So many super chats coming in today. Michael Ronquillo, Robbie Red, Gary Palmer, Lawrence Rivera, Brandon Williams. I don't know if we showed Brandon Williams. Thank you, Brandon.
We did.
We did?
Yep,
okay.
Did.
Thanks, Brandon.
Brandon.
Troy Bauer, Andrew Morrow coming in. Richard came in twice, I think. My dad. Shout out to the old man. David Carmelo, Kyle Wielden, Duke Rose, Ryan Main, and Michael Ronquillo. You guys are great. Thank you so much for that. And we didn't even mention this. So congrats to Randy Gradishar, Hall of Fame. I know they talked about it a lot last night on Mile High Insiders, but long time coming for the Broncos linebacker. Really excited to see him get the call in the Hall of Fame, and another Big Ten player in the NFL Hall of Fame as well. So that's great for my brand, because I think Gardeshar was a Ohio State linebacker. But I digress. Congrats to him. Thanks everybody so much for joining us today. Make sure you're following Scott on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell MHH. Also make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle. If you haven't done so yet, join us at Facebook, facebook.com/Mile High Huddle, and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as the ticker says here underneath, please subscribe to Mile High Huddle over on YouTube, like this show, and share it on all of your social media platforms. And we got Grabbert coming in here. Predator, an organism that lives by preying on other organisms, a person and group that victimizes, exploit others for gains. Number 3, Harold Perkins, LSU. He's a year away, Grabbert. We'll be talking about him in the 2025 draft. But yeah, Harold Perkins, unbelievable player. Maybe the best defensive player in college football this upcoming year. Sorry, Bama X, to say that to you. But yeah, have a great one, guys. Scott, any thoughts? We're live tomorrow again.
Yeah, we'll be on tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. We'll talk some of the games. This will be an NFL show. We'll talk some of the games we saw tonight and some of the bigger storylines. Probably hit on Jonathan Taylor again, see if there's any news there and any of the news that's come out. So join us tomorrow, youtube.com/Scott Kennedy to make sure you find us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your day. Everyone, make sure you continue to choose kindness and compassion. Thanks for all the shout outs to that, as for my wife and I as well. And we'll see you guys again soon. But until then, go Broncos.